Hi, today we're with political analyst Dr. Jeniri Amir from Unimas, who's here to talk about the Sarawak polls. Good morning, Doctor.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We'll just start straight off the bat. It's been 1 week into the campaign. How do you feel Chief Minister Adenan Satem's popularity will translate into votes for the polls?
Yeah, his popularity rating is reaching the roof already. It's about, based on our studies, Majlis Profesor Negara in October last year, it was 85%. And Merdeka Center is at 81%. So now it's hovering around 80%. I think this is partly because of his political and marketing, strategies. He's very down to earth. You see, his speech is, a very simple speech using local dialect, Malay, Sarawak Malay, Iban, and I think he's very comfortable with English. And also he created a lot of jokes, on stage singing. His speech is very short. Unlike Tun type speech more than 1 hour, his is from 5 to 15-minute speech, a lot of jokes, and he sings on stage. And on top of that, seems to be very, very humble, down to earth, And more importantly, the 53 reform steps and principles taken by Sri Adenan, I think, really resonate well with the people. But the biggest question here is whether all these steps, the so-called Adenan fever, really translate into votes or not, has yet to be seen. But to me, they are cautiously optimistic, in the sense that there are problems in as far as 15 Chinese seats are concerned. So DAP in 2011 won 12 seats, PKR won 1 seat in the Chinese majority seats. So the biggest problem here is, on one hand, Adenan is very popular, no doubt about it. But on the other hand, with the problems between the two parties, SUPP and the splinter party UPP, so that is going to negate all the positive things that Adenan has implemented over the last 2 years.
During the last state polls, you were the most vocal analyst. How do you assess the difference between last year's state polls and this year's state polls?
So there's a vast difference. Last state election was really the sentiment was really anti-VN, anti-type for them. Vote VN equal to vote type. And when a lot of issues then, not only because of the type, 29 years in power, abuse of power, and so on. The Chinese want good governance, want the opposition to be the watchdog, and also balance of power. But with Adenan, after Adenan took over as a Chief Minister of Sarawak, I think there's change in terms of sentiment. There's feel good, sentiments, including among the Chinese voters. And on top of that, I think more importantly is the 53 reforms, principles and steps taken by him really resonate well with the people. But then again, as I said, whether that all these steps is enough to make a swing or not. So I think it's a miracle to see a big swing or a tsunami. And I think tsunami is not the right word. I think it's very destructive. Here. So if it's towards, we can say it's a swing. But I still believe that in terms of popular votes, there could be improvement. There was a big drop, in terms of popular votes. 2011, I think 49%, and the last general election there was a drop of 12%. So it's just hovering around 37%. So this time around, with feel good factor, the step taken by Adenan, including the recognition of UEC, allocating about 12 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million over the last 3 years to the Chinese independent schools, and not regarding the Chinese as independent, as immigrants or pendatang. I think this sentiment will be for VN. I think there will be increase in terms of popular votes to probably at least 5% up.
It appears that most of the contentious seats are in the cities, the urban areas.
Yeah.
But all these seats have very different voter patterns. For example, Miri and Sibu are quite far apart. Could you provide us your assessment of the sentiments in Sibu, Miri and Kuching?
Yeah. In Miri, there are 3 seats in Miri, Pujut, Piasau, and also Sanadin. in the last state election, SUP candidate Dato' Lee Kim Shin won by 58 votes only. It's really marginal seats, and the 2 seats were won by DAP. And the biggest question now is whether BN can win all these 3 seats, or DAP can retain the 2 seats. So with the candidates that's been put forward by Barisan Nasional through SUP and UBP, the direct candidates, they're trying their level best to win back the seats. And the candidate in Pujut, I think is a very popular candidate, down to earth, trying his level best to solve the problems of the voters there. And Dato' Lee Kim Shin is also very popular in the sense, since 1996, he's seen as a very humble candidate, trying to solve and fix the problems. Whereas Dato' Sebastian Ting, the Sekjen of SUP, even though he lost in the last election, but I know that he went down went to the areas over the last 5 years. Having sometimes 7 events in one day, from 7 a.m. until late 12 at night.
So he's been covering
covering this area. So I'll be very surprised. I mean, if voters don't vote this kind of very committed candidates. So over to Cebu, and the seats in Cebu, I think the hottest seat, I believe, is Bawang Asan. Contesting there is no other than the former UPP president, and with an independent candidate, a former PBB leader, grassroots leader, who's very influential. I think Dato' Wong Sun Koh is facing a really uphill battle there. So this time around, I can say that for Wong Sun Koh, this is going to be the toughest battle for him in Bawang Asam. The deciding factor will be who can take more votes from the Ibans there. There are about 100 plus longhouses there, and even though Wong Sun Koh has done his level best, giving a lot of projects, but then again with independent candidate who is quite influential, very well known at grassroots level, so it's a big question mark there. Dudong and Bukit Asik, I think Bukit Asik is really DAP stronghold. Is very difficult for DAP for Barisan Nasional to win back that seat. Dudong and Palawan is also very difficult to tell now, really, but it can go either way. And in Kuching, the hottest seat of course is Batu Kawah. Batu Kawah, Batu Kitang, all these seats are more than 70%, 80% Chinese. So I can see that these seats are really tough for Barisan Nasional to win back.
And a final question, word around the street is that Barisan Nasional will win, but the question is by how many votes?
Okay.
By how many seats? What is your prediction?
It's a foregone conclusion that Barisan Nasional can win the 2/3. It's in the bag. It's foregone conclusion they can win the 2/3 majority. My take on this is the best they can win is 70 seats. The worst case scenario is 65. So the range is between 65 to 70, taking all factors into consideration. With one hand, Adenan very popular, but this is not a presidential election. On the other hand, with a lot of issues, including the intrigues and conflict within the parties, SUP, UBP, SPDP, Trust, and at the same time with the Chinese having a pragmatic and also strategic pragmatic voters who want to see balance of power in the Dun, and also watchdogs roles played by the opposition. I think it's going to see a very interesting things going on the 7th. Yeah.
Right, thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Jeniri. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
I'm Dina Murad for Star TV, reporting from Kuching, Sarawak.